Have you ever walked into an old building at night and felt like something changed as soon as the door closed? Not fear, not panic, just the sense that the space itself felt different. Most people describe that as presence. What they're really describing is a shift in perception caused by the environment. Welcome back to the Curiosity Files. If you're new here, my name is Larry Flaxman. I'm a best-selling author and paranormal theorist. I investigate fringe science and unusual experiences, but I don't start with belief. I use hard science to explain what people usually label as unexplainable, and I focus on what's physically happening and how the human brain processes it. When you enter an old building at night, multiple variables change at the same time. Sound drops, light drops, temperature begins to equalize differently room by room. Your sensory input narrows and your brain compensates by increasing your sensitivity. The building itself hasn't changed, but your nervous system has. Old buildings are not static structures. They are mechanical systems under constant stress. Wood absorbs and releases moisture. As humidity changes, beams expand and they contract. That movement is often very subtle, but it happens across the entire structure. When tension releases, it produces sound. Pops, clicks, long creaks. In a really quiet environment, those sounds stand out and feel very intentional, even when they're not. Metal adds another layer. Older buildings combine wood and metal throughout the structure. Nails, brackets, pipes, fasteners hidden behind walls and floors. Metals expand and contract at a different rate than wood. When temperatures shift, those materials press against each other. That interaction produces tapping or knocking sounds that can appear patterned simply because of how stress distributes throughout the frame. People often interpret this as footsteps. In most cases, it's just physics. Temperature also plays a major role. Buildings generally don't cool evenly. Exterior walls lose heat faster. Interior rooms will retain warmth longer. Beams also relax at different times. Plaster also follows. Floors can adjust. These changes send low-frequency vibrations through hallways and stairwells. Low-frequency sound travels farther and it feels closer, which is why noise can seem nearby even when it originates somewhere else within the structure. Glass also contributes as well. Older window panes are really inconsistent in their thickness and composition. They often contain imperfections from the manufacturing process. Changes in air pressure or vibration can cause them to resonate slightly. Sometimes it's audible, sometimes it isn't. Either way, your nervous system can detect it. At the same time, low light changes how your brain processes visual information. Fine details drop off. Motion detection becomes dominant. Your brain fills in missing information automatically because it prioritizes detecting movement over accuracy. Peripheral motion becomes much more noticeable even when nothing meaningful is happening. Hearing works the same way. In quiet environments, auditory sensitivity increases. In unfamiliar spaces, your brain really has no baseline, so every sound feels sharper, every echo feels closer. The same noise that would mean nothing in your own house suddenly carry weight. Electrical systems add another factor. Older wiring produces mild electromagnetic fluctuations. It's not necessarily dangerous, but some people are more sensitive to it. Increased alertness, mild unease, a sense that something feels off without a clear reason. That response is physiological, not psychological. Smell ties everything together. Old materials release odors that bypass rational thought and go straight to memory and emotion. Dust, wood, fabric, metal. Your body reacts first, and interpretation comes later. Individually, none of these factors are remarkable. Together, especially at night, they stack up. Sound, vibration, temperature change, low light, electromagnetic variation, and scent all converge into one. The environment then feels active to you because, in a measurable sense, it is. This is where most people stop analyzing. They feel something and they automatically assign meaning to it immediately. They confuse environmental response with awareness. Oftentimes, they will assume intent where there is none. That mistake shows up constantly in paranormal investigations. A sound is heard and interpreted instead of documented. Temperature, humidity, time, direction, repetition. Without establishing a baseline, which I've talked about in some previous videos, everything feels significant. So here's where this matters. Everything I've described explains most experiences in old buildings, but it doesn't explain all of them. Once you spend enough time in these environments, you learn their patterns, you learn their normal behaviors. You know how building sounds when nothing unusual is happening. And that's when anomalies really become obvious, not because they're dramatic, but because they don't fit the established or routine pattern. A sound that responds instead of reverberates, a repetition with no environmental trigger, information that appears without a clear physical source. Expectation also plays a role. If you enter a space already convinced that something is there, i.e., haunted, your brain will quickly connect unrelated events. It fills the gaps quickly because uncertainty creates stress. Two people can stand in the same room under the exact same conditions and have completely different experiences based on their own personal expectations alone. Time distortion adds another layer to this. When your brain processes unfamiliar sensory input, subjective time slows down. Silence feels longer. Sounds feel closer. That distortion reinforces the sense that something is happening even when nothing external has changed. Understanding this doesn't remove the mystery. It helps to refine it. It helps to prove it. Because once you rule out environment, perception, and expectation, whatever is left becomes much harder to dismiss. That's the difference between reacting and investigating. Old buildings aren't empty and they aren't silent. They respond to physics, stress, and time. Most experiences come from predictable interactions between structure and nervous system. But not all of them do. And you can't identify what doesn't belong until you understand what does. That's why science comes first. I'm Larry Flaxman. This is the Curiosity Files. Thanks for watching.